Hi, Misha here, and I've done a video on an alien or aliens or Alien versus Predator, whatever ship in a while. And with Eaglemoss's recent stuff, kind of made me think about some models that have been sitting around. Let's talk about the USCSS Prometheus of the Heliades class. Her sister ship was actually the USCSS Heliades, which was Earth's, or will be Earth's first faster than light ship. But that was more of a prototype or experiment. The USCSS Prometheus was the first one really to be sent on a mission from the 2012 movie Prometheus. Shocking, I know. And just for a little bit of comparison, I brought back out the USCSS Narcissus. Excuse me, Nostromo. Narcissus is on board her. And of all things, the Betty. Because I want to just mention a couple of things. So with that, yeah, as usual, dive in. So like all these, this is a die-cast model with plastic where needed. And it's about 8 inches. Kind of spread out because of the engines. No, they don't move. None of the Eaglemoss models move. That's just how they were designed and how their factory is set up. So in universe, this project dated back to the 2070s and really got underway in the late 2080s, and Prometheus herself launched in 2091 and had faster than light travel capabilities. There's a couple of measurements given, but the most common one seems to be about 130 meters by just under 50 meters wide and about 37 meters tall. And they have 6 decks in total, and while it can be operated by as few as 3, it can support a crew of 25 very easily. And this was designed as an exploration craft, deep space, and for relatively long voyages. Even at FTL speeds, you're talking 2-3 years there and then another 2-3 years back. She actually has enough provisions for 10 years of flight as standard, and 6 months to support the crew while they're awake, because it has a 3rd generation hypersleep deck, cryo deck, and several other things besides. There are crew quarters, a basketball court, medical bay, private and public dining areas. But really her main thing was her exploration and science and potentially mining. So it was mostly fitted out for that. It does not have any weapons on the ship, although it does have provisions for a security detachment, and they may have their own small arms, as it were. This used nuclear power with ion plasma engine types. It has a total of 4 main engines that are designed to do double duty. They are part of the FTL propulsion. They're also sublight in space, but in this position, and they can rotate and pivot down and act as landing legs and vertical kind of hovering FTL, not FTL, but V-stall capable. And these pylons rotate, and the engines do too. It would be kind of neat if the model did that, but again, I don't expect that from Eaglemoss. It has tons of antennae sticking out everywhere. It's got long range, so back to Earth communications. It's got short range. It has lots of terrain mapping sensors, scanning equipment, basically meant to kind of look over a planet and a go. And it has a very large cargo bay, service bay, vehicle bay Actually carries a lot of vehicles. Has 5 RT vehicles, basically transport vehicles. It has 4 smaller ATV vehicles, and it has 2 larger mining vehicles and extraction vehicles, plus whatever else they might want to put on board. It can carry quite a bit of cargo. It has 8 standard escape pods, which honestly look like hell if you're trapped in them. And then it has 1 actually nice escape craft, kind of like the Narcissus in the Nostromo, where they can support half a dozen people. The other escape pods are just more of a temporary thing. I'm not really sure what the point is, because this would be out where no man had gone before, so there's no help. And actually the beginning of the movie and what's kind of going on, I like. The later part, when it kind of turns into more generic horror, I wish it kind of kept more of a 2001 A Space Exploration feel, because the idea of being out there, even people think, oh, we hit FTL and it'll be like Star Trek will be somewhere in a week or so. Even with FTL, good FTL, it's going to take a long time to get anywhere. And when you're out there, you might as well bring a bunch of stuff with you. Even if we just ever go to Mars, we're not going to send a mission to Mars for a day or two like we did for the moon. We're going to send them for weeks, if not months, because what's the point of going if you don't do anything? So the idea that this is kind of big and somewhat seemingly over-equipped does not at all bother me, because that's exactly what would happen. The mission took about 2.5 years to get to Zeta Reticuli, made famous by Barney and Betty Hill, and did its thing there. The mission on the planet, or moon, was about 2 days, and then they peacefully left and everyone lived happily ever after. But regardless of that, it's an interesting design. And it's kind of interesting because Aliens, the whole series, kind of has a very industrial used look, like with the Nostromo here, and certainly the Betty here. These are quite old ships in their time. This was meant to be cutting edge, but it's also meant to be technology quite close to our own time. Then again, the original Alien, the Nostromo, was first launched in 2101, so only 10 years after the Prometheus mission. And in the events of the movie, it's 2122. So, hey, 100 years from now, pretty much exactly. So there are some commonalities between these ships, even though they're actually from different manufacturers in universe. This is manufactured by Weyland Corporation. It's the flagship in their FTL fleet. This is actually manufactured by Lockmart. And this is, I guess, a British version, because it's manufactured in universe by Hawker Siddeley. Although they do kind of show a similar technology. So let's talk about that for a minute. Just for comparison, we'll revisit. I've actually noticed 2 different sizes given for the Nostromo, but I think since we're talking about Prometheus, the one that says it's a little over 240 meters long and about 160 some odd meters wide and about 74 meters tall, this makes the most sense. Because this actually has a quite small crew and only has 3 at least livable decks. And even of those, really only 1 is for the crew. Well, that's how we see it in Alien. When it's first launched in 2101, it's actually a Starliner Star Freighter, so it's a generation or 2 more advanced when launched compared to Prometheus, which was a science and experimental craft. And then after 15 years of operation, it was purchased by Weyland Yutani and retrofit into a commercial tug hauler towing vehicle, and given heavier engines, big old blocky engines, fitted with hypersleep cryodeck to house up to 8, and was given a freight run and it would tow a ore refinery, a very long ore refinery, about a mile long, through space, making the trip over a couple of years. And that's how we find it in Alien. It too is unarmed. It's definitely much more of a older looking vessel, because when we encounter it in 2122, of course, it's been in space for 20 years, and it's been in the hands of space truckers. So yeah, porno and jizz everywhere. It too is nuclear powered, although it does have a faster FTL drive than Prometheus. It's actually a little more advanced in a lot of ways, although it doesn't have near the sensor equipment and holographic equipment that Prometheus has. It's very much a workaday. It's basically the diesel pickup truck that your contractor uses, not the spiffy science car that, I don't know, maybe your professor drives. But it is bigger. Like I said, only one of the decks, A deck or deck 1, supports the crew. Deck 2, B deck, is mostly just for plumbing, piping, storage. Deck C is for the mining equipment, landing gear, that kind of thing. But this was the first one Eaglemoss did, and it's quite large. It's a little on the light side just because of how much polymer they use to get all the detailing. And they actually did do an XL version, but this is big enough for me. It's about 10 inches. And we see a few other, this is, like I said, from Lockmart. It's considered a Bison class star freighter. And we see a few others throughout the series. But it does not have vectoring or moving engines, though it still can land if it detaches from its refinery. There's definitely some commonality there, I think. The Betty. This is considered a freighter, although it's more short range, planet to space. It does have FTL. It's about 44 meters long. It's actually over 70 meters wide and 20 meters tall, thanks to its kind of vertical takeoff and landing engines that are quite powerful to take off in an atmosphere. It can support up to 8 people, although it can be operated by far fewer than that if needed. As I said, it was made presumably by the British company and was in Alien Resurrection. It's an old ship in the 24th century when that film takes place. I don't know when it was actually launched, but it actually has some resemblance to Prometheus in the V-stall engines. That's why I brought it out, because it kind of reminded me. These big chunky things, plus the kind of the cockpit look that pretty much all the Alien ships have. And it kind of continues the old rundown theme that these are going for. As much as the film is not great, they actually did a really good job with the model. It's probably the biggest one, and I'd say the heaviest one of all of these. So I just thought I'd bring it out for a minute for a comparison. So as usual, we end with them all lined up. The Eaglemoss is famous for their Star Trek stuff, but lots of companies have done Star Trek models or toys or whatever, micro machines, all that. Very few companies have ever done anything for Battlestar Galactica, Alien, and that's why we were so excited about the Stargate stuff. Unfortunately, that just barely got going. I think this is pretty much the first, and maybe the only so far, Prometheus we've ever had. And while a couple of companies have done something with the Nostromo, they have not done that in a long time, or very many, and I doubt anyone's ever messed with the Betty. I could be wrong on that, but these are neat, and I kind of like this size, big enough for detail, but not so huge that it takes up a lot of space. The Nostromo and the Betty clip into their stands from behind. Prometheus is just kind of cradled in it, more like a lot of the Battlestars, and I actually like that more, though it doesn't put as much stress on the clips. These really don't come with much of a magazine, but oh well. I mean, not like I can read it anyway, but some of you might like to. So yeah, I thought this would be something some would enjoy. Even if some of the films weren't great, I still think the designs, and I think Prometheus had a good concept. I think it went right when I would have turned left, or left when I would have turned right when they got to the moon. But yeah, it's neither here nor there. That's 10 years ago now. Just thought I would share, folks. As always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.